OSI. I was a special agent with Air Force OSI. I
And they
was
worked for the FBI as well.
I was an operational employee for the FBI. I did spooky stuff for the FBI, but they get real particular about their titles.
Actually, investigator for the Air Force. That could be, if you're not under NDA or can mention a little bit. Compared with the FBI, you said you did a little spooky stuff there. Which one was more spooky or more intensive things that you covered?
Oh, the Air Force. And that's in the realm of technology, of course. With the FBI, it was pretty much working against the KGB and the GRU. And occasionally the Chinese service. But once I got into the Air Force, that involved technology.
Well, and that's what we're all about, especially with APEC, Alternative Propulsion Engineering Conference, that Jeremy is a co-founder of, that I'm a co-host of, and that the philosophy is disclosure through technology and bringing this technology out. And it's long overdue, and we should actually get you in touch with Tim Ventura to have an APEC presentation on specifically what you covered with the Air Force, as we do have a lot of former military people and industry engineers and scientists that working and doing presentations with APEC. Wow. It's what it's all about. So,
okay. Well,
Walter was nice enough to send me a copy of his book. I don't know if you've read his book, but Walter's dad was in the Air Force too, and actually worked at the Aero Med Lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and testified on his deathbed about seeing bodies. Right?
Yeah. Really? Yeah. Now, in my line of work, it was mostly program protection, but you had to be briefed in to the level of what you were protecting, obviously. So that was my initial exposure to Air Force technology. And then when I was at Wright-Patterson, home of the Air Force labs and all the other interesting spooky things, I was chief of Double Agent Operations Branch, and that deals with technology. I can't go too far into it, but you're dealing with technology. You're looking at it every day, thousands of pages. Basically, I was assigned to the detachment at Wright-Pat, but I took my mission orders from OSI headquarters, and the Pentagon was involved in that. So, you know, I would basically tell my commander at Wright-Pat what my branch was doing, as opposed to him telling us what to do. Unless
one of the rare cases in like government and bureaucracy where it's like you're more powerful or more in control of your job than the higher ups, or what you're investigating.
In that particular case, my immediate supervisory authority was a lieutenant colonel. And I was started out there as a first lieutenant and made captain while I was there. And, but basically it really is, you're just informing him, sir, this is what we're up to. But if we had, and we did have this happen, if we had a spy situation pop up, a suspected spy or whatever, then we were in charge of counter-espionage investigations as well as operations. So
that would be the reason why, and the departmentalization, because to prevent moles and spies of why, like, you are informing your higher ups and like you're in charge of the information and keep it very classified.
Right. And also that serves to help in certain field situations, particularly during wartime. If you get captured and you're tortured, you don't know the whole story. They can only get the one piece out of you. That's a part of compartmentalization they don't like to talk about so much.
And so the big issue that came out of all of this that's like hindering humanity is the counterintelligence sort of operation, and like to prevent like the Russians or the communists or whoever to get hold of something that's real, that's like a risk of national security or whatever, that the people investigating it would actually like put out debunking stuff and make the population believe it's not true as this counterintelligence. So then like the scientific community is like, hey, our authoritarian like academic or agencies are saying that this is false, so like this is bunk science, when in fact like these could be the advancements that are holding back and like the next leap of technology and advancement.
Yeah,
right?
like it's also easier to let people believe it's something from another world, and that way you kind of protect it when it's your own technology. So it depends on the situation. Sometimes you encourage people to think the otherworldly because you don't want them to know how real world it is.
So in regards to that, and your time at the Air Force and the whole Nimitz encounters, are you suggesting, or would you say that you've experienced the possibility that the Tic Tacs are actually maybe like the Air Forces or like the Pentagons or like the CIA or some like American technology, but then the Navy has no idea or like no knowledge of it and are led to believe that it's off-worldly or extra dimensional, something like that?
From the get-go, I read that as our technology, and it's not that the Navy doesn't know, it's that the brave and courageous squadron commander Fravor wasn't briefed in on it. Okay, the spin that has been put on that Tic Tac thing, you know, when I see a squadron commander say stuff like, you know, if I wasn't briefed in on it, or if I didn't know it, it wasn't ours. I just, that is so laughable. And I would give him credit. If I ran into him, he's having a beer somewhere, I'd walk up to him and laugh, and I'd say, Commander, come on, you know better than to say crap like that. And I would venture to say he'd probably wink and agree, because you know, when advanced technology is being still tested, you know, is in that test and development phase, I'm sorry, every squadron commander is not briefed in on it. And in my opinion, what that was a test. They wanted a live field test with real human reaction to this advanced technology. Okay, now remember, the sorties were people. I got in arguments with people who said they wouldn't do that right over the city of San Diego. Well, they didn't do it right over the city of San Diego. It was miles out to sea, and it was at a latitude that was well south of San Diego. It was more even with Baja California, and it was in an absolutely known U.S. Navy technology test area.
I was gonna say, isn't there like a U.S. sub base or like special
and all of that
area?
too, but a known specific technology test zone, and they were on a routine proficiency sortie also, you know, getting their flying time in. Those planes were not armed. Okay, so when you want a real world reaction to something extraordinary, you're going to throw that at your personnel under those circumstances where no destruction can be wrought, no one can be hurt, so that you can get a real human reaction. Now, let's not forget that there were witnesses on those ships that also said 2 Air Force guys that they referred to as intelligence officers showed up on board and confiscated the modules from the, you know, the consoles or whatever from the radar
Kevin
stuff.
Day. Kevin Day, he was the radar operator of either on the Nimitz or on the Aegis destroyer, and he did an APEC conference presentation. He testified and stated to that, and like how ticked off they were about that, and how quickly that happened, and like literally, like he said, Black Hawk helicopters, like with people in black suits, came and landed within like 15 minutes, and like took it like while he had like gone to the bathroom or something, and came back and it was gone, and he was like just ticked.
I guarantee you, at least the flag level commander of that whatever it was out to sea. I'm sorry, I forget my naval terms, flotilla or fleet or whatever part of it was that. I guarantee you, at least the flag level officer was briefed.
Strike group.
The carrier strike group. Yeah, I guarantee you that there were some high level officers that were told the labs are going to be doing something, and we're going to be throwing it at your guys. Believe me. And besides, the commander of that vessel that the Air Force guys showed up to take stuff, there's no way that commander is just going to allow these unknown guys to show up and take anything off of his vessel.
Right. And like
And,
once
so
again, the
the Navy knew.
compartmentalization and how you stated, like in case of like
Yeah.
a capture or torture or whatever, why you don't inform every single person of every single
Yeah.
detail. You
Right.
want to give the least amount of information possible to the least amount of actors to keep it protected. And
here's the thing I want to point out, because I was one of them from the get-go. When I heard this story, when it broke publicly, there were a few of us that said, guys, this is our technology. Just stop it with all this nonsense. And sure enough, as time went on with those patents that were released that were identical to the things reported, and with time, the more people thought about it, and when the story got out about them retrieving the stuff, the data, I think people began to realize, yeah, that was likely our technology. And the thing is, they also, whatever perception management spin they were doing for the public, because remember, this happened in 2004, right? And they're not talking about it till years later. That's perception management. That's put out there for a reason. And they got their.
I gotta add into that in the perception management of it, and wasn't it? It was either Jeremy Corbell or Lou Elizondo that was like the supposed hero and spearhead that was able to bring it to the public, and that was like the one that brought like the hero that like made it to be able to be declassified to the public or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
like,
Jeremy Corbell's the head of something. It ain't a spear. The carnival barker. He has no credibility with me.
More
and
none of us in this.
Yeah. And Lou Elizondo was doing his perception management operation job. I've said that from the beginning too. Got a lot of grief for that.
He's like
of course.
Actual prime example of this counter espionage operation, like management, like director, like that is the position, that is the job.
Perception management
is hired or has the job history that he works that government position going into this role. So it's like that's what he's been trained for. That's what he's like literally been working his entire career as. Like, is this freaking to play a character of this propaganda counter espionage?
And I think Fravor too, in the same way, is just being a good, aviator, naval aviator, good soldier, as we say.
Rush is a Boy Scout too,
and
right?
he was Rush. That's
I just got to report on what I saw and what people were telling me,
So the one thing, like, I really would love to get Kevin Day back for a second interview, because he moved me in believing his genuine experience of what he stated there, and that he believed that he experienced like a almost telekinetic or connection, or like some sort of essentially a conscious connect with the operator of the Tic Tac, and that at one point and stated that he believed that it was like off-worldly or coming or something, and like that he genuinely went through that. But then for the counter or another possibility, going into Eric Tecker from that I've interviewed several times, and we just did a recent one. He's the whistleblower from Antarctica that worked with Raytheon for a year down there, and that he is putting forth evidence and claims that they have these facilities and technology for implanting thoughts and direct into the brain experiences. So could that also have been part of the overall op, if it was like a test false flag or whatever the heck sort of thing, like a American project that simultaneously they made?
Certainly possible. I would love to see more evidence for that. Jeremiah's figured out the microwave auditory effect in the lab, so he can actually demonstrate that with the voice of God technology.
Voice of God dates back to 62?
Yeah, and that's real. But as far as
I just bring that up because he, like, Kevin Day so genuinely believes, like, the way you can just see, like, he was like shook to his core and like has forever changed his life, his perspective, and just his life being journey, that like he experienced something otherworldly with that whole encounter and whatnot.
Yeah,
So it's
advanced
like,
technology can do that to you. If
yeah,
it's
right. So
sufficiently
that's what I'm
advanced.
saying.
Yeah.
Like it, his experience was that they were projecting that it was off-world, but it could also be that it was American technology, both testing it as well as projecting into
Oh, it
the
was
voice of
American
God, into
technology.
the things to believe it was UFO. And that could be for a potential
Yeah.
larger scale false flag of this fake alien invasion that they keep
Yeah,
talking
exactly.
about.
Because there is every reason to believe that it's American technology. So absolutely, it speaks to the false flag alien invasion idea. Certainly, because you know,
Now, as far as technology goes, you also were researching this Delashau group and the Sonoro Aero Club, Walter, and you talked
yeah,
about that in your book as well. Have you made any progress with your investigations into any of that?
yes. Um, during the weekend of the NIMSACon, I learned. Something about Tuolumne County that I didn't know before, because Malia Grimm, my associate, said, "Hey, let's drive in there a different route." So the route we went revealed an abundance of a particular mineral in the area, known as mariposite, and we thought, hey, wait a minute, this stuff is green. And talking with Olaf Phillips, he agreed, and all three of us came to the conclusion that Peter Menace, who was the leader of the Sonora Aero Club in the 1850s, well, Charles Delshau, our source of the Sonora Aero Club, writes that the fuel, so to speak, the ingredient run through the turbine of these flying arrows, was this stuff that the leader, Peter Menace, referred to as the soup. And it was green. Delshau himself saw it. He described it as green. There was this secret element to which Menace just simply added water and then ran through their turbine, which I have said is a Racine turbine. Virtually, it's identical, which the Racine turbine was published in 1850. Now, some years back, a couple years ago, I thought, well, I wonder if it could be liquefied emerald. And I talked about this with Joseph Farrell, threw it past him, and he said, I think you're onto something, but I don't know if emerald would fit. Well, as I learned last weekend, mariposite is in abundance right there in Tuolumne County. And it's green, and it has some interesting properties, which Jeremy can describe a lot better than I can. And Malia described them to me because she knows something about geology that's a lot more than I do. And our conclusion, we all three agreed, me and Malia and Olaf, was that the secret ingredient in soup was powderized mariposite, which then was liquefied with water. And when you run that through this Racine turbine design, I think it's very likely you'll get something that might contribute, to anti-gravity flight. I don't know.
And
Well,
the
it says
the mariposite we were just briefly talking before we went live has mica. The main thing is mica, and mica is a dielectric, and that we're going to have to bring this up to Bob Greenier of the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. He's
we'll have to have someone go out there to that particular town and get us a local sample too, so that we can throw it under SEM and do some other tests on the local source of that stuff to see if there's anything else in there or anything special about those structures and that are
because the mica is a dielectric, and in a powder, like a crystallized nano powder, and then if you have it in a liquid, and if you can get it charged and ionized enough and into a plasma, essentially you'd have a liquid crystal, like nano superconducting plasma that's dielectric in structure and nature off the get-go, and that could be an insulator or like an outer you know, if you're having two liquids like a mercury on the inside, and then you have that the mica powder